Hello, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. This is video number 15, and I think I'm finally getting the hang of everything. Um, Slowly but surely. So tonight this video is going to be short because I'm only going to talk about my faves and what the great news that I heard yesterday. And the news that I heard was Prince Harry and Meghan are making moves for their Netflix production deal. The Duke and Duchess will produce a film adaptation of the novel Meet Me at the Lake. So that's good news because this is something they've been wanting to do for a while. So, what I am going to do is give you a little history of the author of the book, and I'm going to give you a backstory as to why she decided to write the book. And then I'm going to read an excerpt of just a little clip of information in the book. Okay. You know what? I forgot to put my screens on, so I guess I'm not doing as good as there they are. Okay. So the person that you see on the screen, her name is Carly Fortune. And she is the one who wrote the book Meet Me at the Lake. So let me read the statement. In a statement to The Independent, Fortune said, I am so thrilled about working with Netflix and Archwell to bring Meet Me at the Lake to the screen. Will and Fern's love story is dear to my heart, and I can't imagine a more perfect partnership. A former journalist, Fortune's second book, Meet Me at the Lake, was released in the US on May 2nd and debuted at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Now, this article that I'm going to read, it was printed last year by Today, but after reading it, I see that a lot of the information is relevant to what I'm talking about tonight. Okay, so let's start. If you were on the beach or by the pool or at a bookstore or at a library or really anywhere this summer, there is a good chance that you encountered the cover of Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Now, this was a book that was written previously. The novel was one of the undeniable books of the summer, and fans of Sam and Percy's love story won't have to wait long for another lakeside romance from Fortune, who previously worked as the executive editor of Refinery 29 Canada. Her next novel, Meet Me at the Lake, was released on May 2nd, 2023. Like every summer after, the actions unfold at a lakeside town outside of Toronto. Rather than far flung in tiny Barry's Bay, though, Meet Me at the Lake takes place in Muskoka, which is a bit closer. Fortune says she recognizes her novel have a pattern, but it was unintentional mostly. I didn't set out to be the lake person, Fortune said. She wrote her second novel after her younger son was born and battling insomnia. Woof, I remember those days. She was longing for an escape. I wanted to give myself some comfort, and I think that's why I went back to the lake for this book. Just on a personal level, that's where I wanted to be. Aside from the freshwater vibes, the novel also shares another quality with its predecessor. Time jumps. Fern and Will meet and have a charged 24-hour in Toronto and make a promise to meet a year later, a promise that Will breaks. Years later, they reconnect in Fern's hometown, where she has reluctantly taken over the resort her mom owned. I like the idea of challenging myself to write a love story about two people who have a very kind of intense history together, Fortune said. That history being extraordinarily brief, just 24 hours. And it was like, could I pull that off? That was like the initial challenge. And that was really, really fun. I like a challenge also. The aesthetically similar covers are the final connective tissue between the two books. aside from, of course, their author. Whereas the cover for the first book was an exiting painting or an existing painting found by the publisher's art department. This one is an original work by Toronto based artist Elizabeth Leaney, based on a photo that Fortune took at the dock where she stays with her family. It has a very personal connection for me. It's so beautiful, and I'm just madly in love with it, she said. Okay, so now we're going to go into the excerpt. Now remember, they met previously, but it was only 24 hours. And then they promised to meet again after a year, but Will stood Fern up. So now we're going into um, later on, and then they meet again. So let's start. Will and I amble along the gravel walkway, and each cabin we pass has its own soundtrack: the slap of screen doors, the clatter of dinner dishes, a tumble of dice, and a cheer of victory. The house and cabin 20 are the furthest from the lodge, and as we walk, the woods grow denser. The path is lined with ferns and begonias planted in old logs. It's hard to tell, but I think Will's tipsy. I know I am. I think my blood is 2 parts gin, he says, as he says, eyes glimmering in a way that haven't since he arrived. Yeah, he's drunk. That's probably a conservative estimate. I feel buoyant. It's the booze, absolutely. But it's more than that. It's quitting my job, the beautiful summer night, and the feeling of taking back some control for the first time since mom died. Will and I walk a little further, and I blame the martinis for allowing me to reach out and touch his arm. Hey, Will. He stops, walking. Thanks for redirecting Mrs. Rose earlier. It's not my favorite story. I know it's not. We watch each other, the lamplight casting Will's face in shadow. Did you mean what you said about that day being the most exciting thing that happened to you? I did, he says. I don't spend much time in that part of the city, but when I'm downtown, I always think of it. I blink. You live in Toronto? I don't know why I hadn't guessed that before. I do, he says slowly. For how long? I ask, my pulse quickening. Will eyes dart to the trees. He doesn't want to answer. Just tell me, I say. A long time, according to Will. I stare him down. That's not good enough. And then he says, almost 10 years, quietly. I nod once, but it's mostly for the purpose of making sure my head is still attached to my neck. I didn't think the great ghosting of Fern Brook breaks could get any worse. Wow, Fern, he says, and I wave my hands, hurt and disappointment rising up my throat. Don't. Fern, I say, listen, I gotta go. I'm drunk. And you are? I study him. Too tall. I leave Will there on the path, standing among the pines and the poplars. That night, the dream starts the same way. I can smell the pancakes before I go downstairs. But when I get to the kitchen, Will is at the stove instead of my mother. He's wearing a dark blue suit, his back turned to me. His hair is past his ears, like it was when he was 22. And when he looks over his shoulder, his face breaks into the most gorgeous smile I've ever seen. I pull him to the table and peel his jacket off slowly. His grin turns wolfish, his eyes hungry. I reduce my speed as I unbutton his shirt, watching him starve. Then press my teeth to the skin over his heart while the pancakes burn. Ooh, this is a rom com. This is a chick flick, but I love it. So if you like stuff like this, if you like romantic novels, I would like to recommend that you read her book. And then when the movie come out on Netflix, hopefully soon, then you can compare the two. I know Harry and Meghan are very happy because they've been waiting for this day forever. And I'm excited about it because I like to watch people, hustle, and I like to see them grow. That makes me happy. And that motivates me also. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for tonight. If you like listening to me mumble and try to read the excerpt, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel so that YouTube knows that you all want more videos. Have a good evening. Try to stay out of the heat if you live in California. If not, you should try visiting California sometime. It's a really nice place. Until then, or until we meet again, peace.